But MMA, you have to be able to have good timing as a striker.
Yeah.
You have to have decent grappling. You have to have decent scrambles when stuff goes to the ground. You have to have all
check
these
your leg kicks and
everything. You have to have mental resilience.
Yeah.
You have to have high cage fight IQ.
Yeah.
You have to have lateral movement. Like MMA is such a nuanced sport. And you know the beautiful thing?
Yes.
You can be somebody that specializes in only one of all those things I've
Yes.
called. And if you are
dominant on
truly
it.
thank you.
Hello, casuals. Welcome to the Casual Experience Show. And we're here once again. On this episode, I have one of my top guests, Oche, young Jollof. Welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you very much, man. It's kind of an honor to be here. Blown away by your setup and just excited to talk about some good old MMA.
Yeah. So how did your story begin?
Very interesting. Started 33 years ago with my mom and dad. Okay, no. My MMA story started maybe 6 years ago. And it started with me trying to overcome insecurity, become a more confident person, face things that had been bothering me since childhood. And MMA had always just been in the radar.
Yeah.
And I was in a position where I had no other option but to confront it. There was an MMA gym that had just come up in Abuja, Body Rocks Fitness Studios. That's where I got my start.
Yeah.
And then I started training under Mayo Icebox Okunu. That was my first coach. He introduced me to the concept of even fighting as a whole. From Mayo, I met the guy who really took me into MMA.
Yeah.
So Mayo opened up fighting. Chidi, aka B-Boy the Mill, a lot of people call him the resident ninja. He trains a lot with Taurus martial arts now.
Yeah.
He was the person that opened up mixed martial arts for me.
Yeah.
So training, striking, kickboxing, and then most importantly, grappling. That was the first time I ever went to the ground was with him.
Yeah.
So I trained with both of them for about 8 months. Then feeling like I needed to sharpen up my striking, I found this boxing gym in Abuja, Shehu Shagari Way, called Pinnacle International Fitness. It's run by a crazy individual, but none other than Marcus Cortez. And Marcus took me in and taught me boxing, taught me how to have a clean 1-2, taught me head movement, taught me rhythm and timing. And those were the things that... So once I finished training with Marcus, that was about 13 months into my training. At that point, the hunger to fight had already started to build inside of me. So, because I was getting confident in sparring, I was doing well, getting the information from my coaches. I'm a pretty decent learner, so just absorbing information. You naturally, there's a spirit that comes up inside of you to want to compete. And so my coach then used to organize local fighting shows in Abuja. They were really underground back then. I told him, yo, sign me up. I got to fight Dili Chuku. He was the guy that they could find closest to my weight at the time, although he outweighed me.
That was on the regional scene?
Yeah, regional scene, local now. And I submitted him in the second round. Interesting first round, lots of striking. Yeah. But I submitted him in a guillotine choke in the second round. And that was the beginning. So that's the answer of your question.
So generally, when one starts MMA, you always have that fear factor. How do you overcome it?
I think that all human beings have an innate desire to explore the unknown.
True.
Even you doing this podcast now, there is a chaos, there's a disorder that you have seen that the casual experience can create order out of. And that chaos is that there's no scene in Abuja that can do what that is doing or thinking in terms of what you're thinking. There's nothing that unites people, right? Yeah. And so you take all that risk, you buy all this fancy equipment, all these microphones, all these lights, and you set up a podcast. So it's the exact same thing with fighting. It's that there are some people that the need... Like I had demons I needed to confront. Yeah. I had traumatic experiences that I felt still affected my decision making till today. And a lot of it was because I was repressed growing up. And so for me, the solution coming to mixed martial arts is natural. I think there's no other, like for me, it's as clear as day. It's like somebody who was repressed, somebody who always felt like they were, because I've always been rebellious too.
Yeah.
And it's like naturally, if you give that person the opportunity to fight and break those chains figuratively and symbolically, here we are.
You would.
Exactly.
So like your journey transcended into commentary, right?
Yes, it did.
And like, well, I've not seen you fight except when I watched your commentary, your documentary. Full Spirit sent it to me and I watched it and it was such a lovely documentary. And I was like, so I think someone even mentioned that you fought in AKO.
No, I didn't fight. I didn't fight in AKO.
Enough, okay, but you fought in bantamweight.
So I was trying to compete at lightweight, but the truth is that when I understood weight cutting better, I understood that I should not have been aiming for anything higher than featherweight. And
what weight are you now?
So as I am now, I walk around between 69 kg and 71 kg. So 68 kg, I believe, is where featherweight cuts off. Then I think 71, because it's pounds, so I always have issues converting doing the conversion. But I think 71 is lightweight.
So in the fighting, so you will be fighting at what weight?
At featherweight. So
right now you're featherweight?
Yes. So right no. Right now I'm about 2 kg. I'm 70 kg. Right.
That's now. Like a middleweight, welterweight.
No, but it's 7. No, I think that falls more along lightweight.
Lightweight.
But we can confirm, Sha. We can confirm.
So then you put your weight down to featherweight if you were to be fighting.
If I was to be fighting, because back then, so when I was the last fight I weighed in for, I was 74 kg.
Yeah.
And that's because that was what I thought. I didn't really understand training the way I understand training now. I didn't really understand weight cutting either. Yeah. I didn't understand. There's so many levels to this game. For me, but it's why I can't leave MMA. MMA is a puzzle that nobody can solve.
Such a sweet game.
It's the perfect game.
Yes.
It's they call boxing the loneliest sport.
Yeah.
MMA is just as lonely, but then because there are so many tools at your disposal with boxing, somebody with a good jab and a good cross and decent footwork,
defense,
then if you now add timing on top of that person can be a champion.
Yes.
But MMA, you have to be able to have good timing as a striker.
Yeah.
You have to have decent grappling. You have to have decent scrambles when stuff goes to the ground. You have to have all
check
these
your leg kicks and
everything. You have to have mental resilience.
Yeah.
You have to have high cage fight IQ.
Yeah.
You have to have lateral movement. Like MMA is such a nuanced sport. And you know the beautiful thing?
Yes.
You can be somebody that specializes in only one of all those things I've called. And if you are truly thank you.
Like Khabib, Nurmagomedov.
You can call their names. You can call Usman.
Yeah, Usman.
You can call Israel and his striking.
Well, Usman at the point developed his striking game to a point where, like, to me, I used to discuss with one of my friends, Yossi. He has one of the best jabs that you know, and it's like you take more of your style from Israel, because your documentary you kept on pointing at Israel, the style bender, and like
Israel inspired me so much back then.
Yes, when he was the champion, right?
Yes, even before he was champion, when he came to the UFC, there's videos of me on YouTube like 5 years ago saying, "Yo, check out Israel.
Yes.
Yo, we're going to have an African MMA era where we're going to have African
even
champions."
Before he came into the UFC,
yes, we were doing like during his rise, we were already covering him, but we're just like you guys back then, just in love with the sport, in love. Now I'm more involved. I never wanted, when I found out I loved the sport as much as I did, I didn't. So this takes us back to personal development. I feel like there's a time when you love something where you have to decide whether you're going to be a consumer or a producer. Now, your motivations for being a producer might vary. And in my case, I had seen that MMA was something I loved so much that I was willing to sacrifice my time for. I was willing to give it my all.
Yeah.
And so I decided at some point that I was not going to simply consume the sport anymore. I was going to produce in order to guide the direction of my region, the direction of Africa's development in this sport, because I got into it so early.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked back since.
And your trajectory, how did you delve into commentary? Because one of your commentary hosts was Hugo last episode, and well, a compliment to you guys. You guys have one of the best teamwork in terms of commentary, the synergy between three of you, the third guy,
Victor,
you and Ugo. Wow, the way you guys break down fights and finishes. Like, I wanted to ask you, if someone like me that I don't fight, can you delve into the world of commentary, or you just have to love fight and be able to see talk about what you see?
Okay, so my very close friend is somebody that I talk to about. So there's a point you get to with anything that you are good at where it no longer becomes about doing the fundamentals. It becomes about having systems in place that are so refined that over time is the systems you consult, and the system is what guides you in what your decision should be.
How does that translate to fights?
So
talking
now,
about it,
there are people. It's very simple. I'm talking about talking.
Okay.
I'm talking about talking.
Okay.
Yes. So the science behind talking, I'll make it as simple as I can. Is that most people talk like this, but if you want to be good at talking, you want to talk like this. So you need to be able to not only just speak about what you're seeing, you need to be able to analyze it and break it down in between the sentence. So, for instance, now when I say you have to take it into your stomach, is that you really have to digest what you're seeing, then come up with the right answer for what it is. So the answer could be a question. It could be, what is the casual experience doing right now while Daniel Cormier is taking them to the ground? In real time now, I expect that Hugo should be able to code that Oche is asking an open-ended question. That is an opportunity for me to slide in. But for me to ask that question, I have to really think about what I am saying. And the point I'm trying to make by saying most people just think and talk. But for you to think, process, so digest it. That's why I'm taking my hand to my stomach. And then process it so that the right words come out. That's what makes commentary difficult. But because even right now I'm talking to you, that's what I'm doing. Every time there's a heavy pause, but it's because I'm giving my brain time to catch up with, what were we talking about? Where do we need to go? What is the action on the screen right now? Do I need to give Hugo more attention? How many more minutes to the end of the round? Do we need to call in ad breaks yet? Ad break sponsors. Do we need to call the sponsors? We need about 15 seconds to do that. And somebody is screaming in your ear in the production, telling you, okay, Oche, the round ends in 30 seconds. I need you to call ads in 15. And you're doing that mental calculation based off of your guys and you're bouncing it. Is another fight in itself. But if you can get to the point where it's a conversation, where both of us are being present and we're both respecting each other and we're being accurate to where we're going, no, it's a beautiful thing.
The itches, the uphills, there are gaps where you have to just the instinct, the fact that you love the fight game itself takes over. Like when you see
Joe Rogan.
When you see Joe Rogan, like he's like a fighter's fan. Everyone seems to love Joe Rogan, and you know without no doubt, iota of doubt, that this guy loves the act of mixed martial arts. And even one can tell with the way you talk about it,
I love
with the way your passion exudes.
I love it.
And so for us here at Casual Experience, because all of us, none of us here has any martial arts experience.
You don't need it. You don't need it.
Yeah,
to
but
get
we
it.
love the art of fighting. I have a friend of mine, Shegun. You met him at AKO 5, AKO 6 rather. We stayed nights during COVID and before COVID. Like we would stay nights watching fights.
When did you discover AKO?
AKO, I discovered AKO last year.
Interesting.
And our my first fight. My first live fight was AKO 5. Watching.
Wow. So in Abuja here.
Yes, I was one of the people on the cover page of AKO, and I was so marveled.
That's
like
amazing.
I was behind you guys. Like we were directly behind you, Oche and Richard. We were directly behind you. We were shouting.
Wow.
And Ugo said AKO 5 is like the best AKO so far.
Depends on how you look at it.
There were a lot of finishes.
Okay. Let me give AKO props.
Yeah.
Shegs. So Shegs, after those first 3 people that trained me, Shegs was my 4th coach.
Yeah.
I used to go spar at his gym. I used to talk to him about fighting.
Okay, he has a gym in Abuja.
Yes, Machine Gun Shegs. It's tourist martial arts.
Yeah,
They're like,
they said he's traveled to Thailand now.
he fought last night or the day before yesterday, and he won Muay Thai. It went on just because as a fighter you have to keep your tools sharp.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is that if so like now, right? Please, I hope you are keeping track of all the places we are going with this conversation so we can revisit them.
Yes.
So if you're in a country like Nigeria, in a region like West Africa, where the sport is developing at the rate that it is, it's not moving too fast, because in a year you might have four shows that AKO does.
Yeah.
The UFC does 4 shows every month on average, right?
Yes.
So the idea now is, how do you keep your tools sharp if the organization that you're fighting with is only letting you compete maybe 4 times a year, and maybe the other organizations aren't doing as good of a job that would motivate you to say you want to go and compete.
That's the word. You need motivation.
You need motivation.
Yes.
And another thing is, you're a prize fighter. You're not an Agboro on the street.
Yes,
No. You are a prize. People should pay prize for the opportunity to watch you fight. You see, the reason why I do commentary, right, is not because I want to be ringside. No, it's because for the thing that those guys are doing in that moment, it's a big sacrifice. They're sacrificing their body, they're sacrificing their minds, everything. They're facing their demons just so you can be entertained. So for me, it's like, I need to be the best commentator I can be to honor these guys.
Yeah.
And that's what motivates me to be better each show.
Yes.
So now Shegs, for instance, we came onto all of this because of Shegs. So how do you keep your tools sharp? You keep your tools sharp by competing. In Muay Thai, you meet guys that will tell you, oh, I've been fighting for 8 years. I have 160 fights. I have 250 fights. You, with your 4 times a year scheme of work, how do you keep up? You get whooped out there.
Yeah.
So he's doing what Ryu in Street Fighter does. He's doing what a real martial artist does. He's going out there and he's seeking competition so he can keep his tools sharp.
But
so
ultimately, every fighter right now, like UFC is their goal. I'm sure of course. It's
the biggest platform and stage in the world.
Yes.
What else don't know? Everybody wants the UFC.
You watch the UFC, obviously you'll be watching the UFC fight a lot.
So I was telling your colleague earlier that 3 years ago I made a personal decision when I decided that I wanted to be to African commentary now, but this is for myself, not commentary now. I wanted to be the best that I could possibly be. Not the best Africa has seen, not the best 5 years from now. No, I just wanted to be the best possible commentator I could be with all the God-given gifts God has given me.
Yeah.
That was 3 years ago. And when I made that decision, I accompanied it with a condition that for the moving forward, I'm only going to cover African MMA. So I stopped covering the UFC. In fact, I watched my first UFC card after that 3 year break about 6 months ago. Because
why is that?
So I needed to prove to myself that I cared enough to sacrifice for this
Africa,
place.
Yeah.
Africa is so underlooked.
So how about the African fighters in UFC?
That still counts. But when I say African MMA now, there was a time where me and my brother and my 2 other co-hosts would have a podcast similar to this, 4 of us around the desk, and we're talking about what happened in the UFC last weekend.
Yeah.
We're talking about Conor McGregor's last stint last week. We're talking about... There was a time where and especially it was after I started training with guys here, I realized that, man, you really have to tell the guys in your local region, tell their stories.
Yeah.
Nobody is telling their stories.
Bring out their
Nobody
shine.
is encouraging them. Nobody is bringing out their shine. Like you just said, they are literally just here hoping for that day that they get that viral knockout and then Dana sees them and gives them a contract. Well, I'm like, I'm right here.
Yeah,
I'm right here.
Experience also is
Thank
right
you.
here.
Everything is right here. Like I tell myself all the time, like, because fear is my best friend. Like I love fear.
Yeah.
Anything that makes me scared, you see me running towards it. And I keep saying, yo, if there's a dragon out there, is guarding some treasure. And I want to know, so I'm always looking for treasure. When there's something dangerous, when there's something I've discovered is something that makes me happy.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, all these guys that we have here, there has to be somebody that is like them, who has done what they are doing, who is local here, who cares genuinely. and I just happened to be that person.
Yeah.
So to the glory of God, I dedicated the last 3 years to only talking African MMA. So if you go to Combat Culture MMA channel now, only what you see there is, so I even covered Dembe, so local martial arts.
Oh, you do that?
I did. I've done 2 Dembe shows in Nigeria already.
Oh, wow.
In fact, the first time a European came to compete in Dembe, Luke Leyland, I was I was sand pit side to cover that.
Dembe is such an exciting sport. So they like it, but it's more of like a northern culture.
It's part of their history.
Yeah.
It's how they used to train and prepare for war back in the day. It's etched. It's something that if Nigeria was truly invested in sports tourism and just the money that can come from sports economics, like if we were truly invested, Dembe is something that we would package as our own African martial arts.
But pardon me, like looking at it from a casual perspective, what I see is a limitation by just the use of one hand. I don't know if
I'll throw you another point there for you to add to your analysis. What about standing in sand? Because they only fight in sand. Which other combat sport do you know that they fight standing in sand?
What's the incapacity of that?
The problem with fighting in sand is that everything feels like the gravity is like 3 times. Lifting your leg and putting your leg back into the ground after you've been in fight stance in sand is much harder. Moving, changing directions, throwing strikes inside sand is different. Your body, even being, so if you're a great striker with both your hands and I bring you into Dembe and you've never trained inside sand, you've never sparred inside sand, you see that automatically now I might expect you to be slower, your reactions might be...
You can't flow like a butterfly.
Exactly, you can't sting like no bee.
Yeah, you can't sting like no bee.
But because Nigeria now, but we have this desire for people to come and tell us who we are.
Yeah.
But you see how we can literally have a conversation about the rules and regulations of Dembe right now because I had to memorize it to do my voiceover work with African Warriors Fighting.
Do you commentate on that?
I've done a commentary for
Dembe.
So if you go on YouTube now and you search African Warriors Fighting Championship, most of their Dembe coverage there, you hear my voice behind it. I've commentated over 75 Dembe fights this year alone.
Wow.
So some of them, only 2 of them I was sand pit side.
Yeah.
The rest of them.
Is that what they call it?
Is the sand pit.
They call it sand pits.
Yes.
Okay. That the arena where they fight, because it seems to be an open space. So it's called a sand pit.
It's a sand pit. But then now all of this, we can talk about this, but then I'm just trying to paint a picture that development of combat sports in Nigeria is something that is developing rapidly. You have a lot of key players, you have a lot of people that are trying to put their money where their mouth is, and they are not trying to stick to just MMA. They are sticking to they are to Dembe, our local boxing here. They are doing boxing is always weird because it's such an old martial arts. But because it's old, I don't know, it's almost like it's resistant to innovation sometimes. You need people like Toki to come and cause disruption. And then they can now start taking risks and doing big things.
It has such a mafia-based grip on it. If you are not a top promoter, like these top promoters, you can't
break in.
You can't break in.
But just to tie it all up so we don't get too distracted, that was why I decided to do only African MMA. I needed to tell our story. Now,
because of your passion, you obviously the passion shines through.
Thank you.
For African MMA and fighting in general. I'm sure you've now had interactions with the fighters. You seem to now develop relationship with them.
Yes.
How do you now separate the attachment, kind of attachment that you have with the fighters when it comes to you doing your job?
Even they know. I'm there to do a job. I'm there to help the audience understand what you're doing. That's my job. And I think I love fighting. I love the fighters. I relate with the fighters. I think one of the things that makes me unique is that I've done what they are doing and I understand it to an extent. So I'll always give them respect for what they are doing. But if you're losing a fight, I'll call out the fact that you're losing a fight. If you get knocked out, like Machine Gun Shegs, my friend, my second fight, Shegs walked me out. There's a picture on Instagram, me walking out to my second fight. Shegs is right behind me, coaching me in between rounds. He was with me. But he got knocked out by Yao Cardio Marcel in Lagos. And it was right hand to the chin. And we all watched it happen. And on the microphone there, I have to call that, my friend got knocked out because his left hand wasn't up when the right hand was coming to his face. It's part of the job. It's part of the job. I don't see how you. It's one of the first things you accept is that you know nothing. The fight can go anyway.
Yeah.
Your job is just to tell the story.
It's not about you being biased or anything. You just have to tell the fight the way. It's like telling a story.
That's it.
Just the way you're saying
That's it. And it's a big deal because forever, whenever you hear that, you watch Masvidal doing his running, flying knee knockouts on Ben Askren, you will forever hear John Anik saying, "Welcome to Modelo, and this is your first round." And then all of a sudden, oh my God,
that was Joe Rogan making noise at 5 seconds.
Because the thing is that every time the commentator's voice is permanently married to the performance of the athlete.
Yes.
So as a commentator,
the knockout of Kamaru's man.
Thank you.
This is not the glutes.
This
is not. And Edwards
just one headshot, bang.
Yeah. Have you had moments like that?
Well, I've had quite a few. I've been doing
where
this.
Your words, your commentary are on point to a particular setup.
Yeah.
How sweet is that feeling?
Do you want to know the truth?
Yeah.
After a while, it gets old.
Really?
Yeah, because
you how? Because you don't even know that thing is coming.
No,
up.
you can't.
You are just following the fight and you are saying it the way
you can tell. Like now, if a person who steps to their left is likely going to throw with their left hand.
Yeah.
But if I didn't tell you that and you didn't know that, you would not limit the person's options to just their left hand if they stepped to their left.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that if you know what to look for, the options that the fighter is presenting to you give you a much shorter
like the script. Yeah.
But if you don't, if you are a casual, like the viewers of the casual experience, it's like, oh man, why the guy no just want blow him now? Why no just want? But meanwhile,
but that part they sweet. The reason say why this guy they okay now. You're watching fights as a fighter. You're watching the fight as a professional fighter. You're through your eyes, and at the same time you're processing it as a commentator. You watch the fights between Chandler and
Oliveira. 1 or 2?
Yes. No, there's 2.
Okay, 2.
What general perspective? You feel that like Chandler needed, that was general overview of it, that Chandler needed to be calm, and you when he started the fight as a commentator, didn't you feel that like he was doing the right thing, processing the right thing, and that if at that point, like the 5th round when he started throwing hooks and punches, getting wild, that we know the Chandler to be, and he was actually making points.
Yes.
What do you say? You see that as a script, or like you should have done that earlier?
Okay, what is Chandler's path to victory? See, everything in life has to be done systematically for it to make sense. Even driving on the road to your place of work is a system. You know that the left lane is for people that are speeding. You know people that are on the right lane, they slow down. If you want to overtake, you go to the left. Fighting is the exact same thing. For a punch to have the capacity to knock you out, there is a way that your body has to be. And depending on the stance you're in, aka orthodox left leg forward or southpaw right leg forward, I can begin to make guesses as to what your intentions are because I understand the options that having your jabbing hand with your lead leg, with your left, they're orthodox now.
That's like one of the first time our guest is actually breaking down for the casuals that are watching, because I know there are a lot of casuals watching. We just always say orthodox and southpaw. This is like the first time a guest is actually breaking down simply what the orthodox and southpaw stance. Say it again, please, bro.
So orthodox is left hand lead. So your lead hand is your left hand. So that means naturally you throw your jab with your left hand. If your right hand is your right hand now becomes your power punch. So there's always a law of inversion there. So if you're southpaw, it's right leg in front. So right hand in front. Then your power hand now becomes your left hand. The rules of fighting change depending on whether you are orthodox or southpaw. If you are orthodox and you are facing another orthodox, it's usually a battle of jabs.
Okay.
Because both of you are, most orthodox people, first of all, are used to fighting other orthodox people.
Yes, you hardly see southpaw. Southpaws are like lefties.
Thank you. But then when you now have an orthodox fighting a southpaw, you say those people are in a mirrored stance.
Yeah.
A mirrored stance. If you're standing in front of a mirror, if you lift your left hand in front of you, it almost feels like it's the mirrors doing the exact same thing in front of you. So that's the exact same thing, orthodox versus southpaw. So now when orthodox are fighting orthodox, the first thing is most people are used to fighting orthodox. They're used to fighting people that throw their
Right
power
hands.
with their right hand, because most people are right-handed.
Yes.
So usually when it's orthodox versus southpaws tend to have an advantage, because southpaws have more advantage. They fight so many more orthodox fighters than orthodox fighters fight them, and they are throwing their punches from the opposite side that the orthodox guys, that the other orthodox guys are used to fighting, throw it from. So now what now happens in orthodox versus southpaw is that southpaw fighters now start trying to throw their left hand in place. So you would have most, if orthodox versus orthodox, is both people using their left hand to throw their jab.
It becomes a hand control thing.
But because southpaw people know that orthodox people are not used to somebody throwing their power hand from their left side, not their right.
Nah.
Most southpaws now throw their left hand, so their power hand, as their lead hand, and it usually has a straighter connection to the jaw of the orthodox fighter, just because he's not used to it.
So even a fighter like Israel that is a switch stance fighter, that takes on that kind of
IQ.
Exactly.
IQ. It's how you know he's an intelligent person.
Yeah.
So you see that fighting transcends beating another person up. If you understand the individual principles taking place, you understand that fighting is life. A person that can do, because it's like I'm telling you, pick up a pen and start doing your signature with your left hand in real time. You cannot be stupid and do that. You have to have, first of all, you have to have practiced it. And what will even drive a person to pursue such a side quest of
to fight both stance?
Left hand in front, right hand in front. My power kick can come from both left hand and right side. So now that's what I mean when I say if you know what to look for, predicting a fight becomes easier. It's not easy, but it's easier.
So what do you see next for the African MMA? Like, I'm sure, like, there are people like you that are passionate but don't have the platform you have, even being on the casual experience and the stage you've been on, AKO, and the various stages you've been on. What do you see next for African MMA?
Okay, so let's slice that horizontally. One of the first things I see is in terms of, so the lowest level now would be in terms of skill.
Yeah.
Skill. I feel that there is going to be an extra appreciation for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the grappling arts and wrestling in Nigeria. I feel like people like Ananias Mulumba, who was the main event.
Yeah, our guy.
I feel like people like Yahaya Yahuza, who was in light heavyweight. They are going to show. They are going to be so dominant that it will showcase that there is a lapse in the grappling aspect of our West African scene. I think I know to a certain level of certainty that South Africa is ahead of us.
Yeah.
The EFC has been doing it for longer.
Yeah.
There are gyms. You saw Chad Hanekom come to Africa. I spoke with his coaches.
That's
and his gym.
Superman. Yeah.
So I spoke with his coaches the day after the fight, and they are seasoned. His coach is a former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion of EFC. They've trained with.
He himself has been to Dana White contender. Like, you could even see the skill difference.
He trained with that Dracos Duplessis last year. He trained with Temba Gorimbo.
Yes.
They are
even the Moroccan lady that defeated our own policewoman.
What's her name?
Doso.
The Andersonars.
You like there was a difference in the skill level, but mind you, we have a lot more casuals and enthusiasts.
Yes.
People willing.
Yes.
That you know that if this guy begin the fight training in fights, it will be something in this our country here.
And every day that passes, the opportunities to be better at the sport in terms of being a fighter, they increase.
Yeah.
They have so many more guys. There's Nestor BJJ in Lagos. they have their a whole MMA facility that they've set up there. Rebirth Era BJJ.
Yes,
they're there, and they have
in Abuja,
in Lagos.
Oh, Lagos.
In Abuja, you have Body Rex Fitness Studio.
No,
you have TMA.
BJJ.
Yes, BJJ specifically.
For jiu-jitsu.
Wow. They have padded walls and everything. A fully decked out gym, but they train people in MMA. This guy that used to fight fights in AKO, Aminu Jibril, he's in the lightweight division.
Yeah.
He's already checked his ticket to the playoffs. If you want us to talk about how the playoffs work, we can talk about that.
Exactly. I was going to ask you.
I know you and Hugo.
It's always Hugo explained to us, but it just still looked complicated when they say the playoffs, the semi-final, and you still see someone that got finished or got defeated in AKO 5 still come fighting you. Like, explain it to us.
Okay, so the first thing about fighting is that fighting is maybe the most volatile sport in the world, in the sense that if you can, like, anything can change the fight from not stop a fight from happening, injuries, anything. So as a promoter, you have to have a certain kind of flexibility with which how you can make fights, with how you schedule fights. So one thing I will tell you for certain is that the week before the fight, there are so many cancellations taking place because somebody got injured in sparring. I tried to throw a jab, the guy's hand entered my eye. I cannot see. I need to go and see a doctor. Meanwhile, and you've booked this guy for the last 3 months, thinking it's guaranteed. So last minute changes can occur. But with AKO, 1 win gets you 3 points, a loss gets you 0 points. A draw gets you 1 point.
Soccer points?
Yes, like soccer points. And there's a leaderboard for each division. There are 5 weight divisions. There's 5 weight divisions.
Yeah.
So it starts at women's bantamweight. Then you have featherweights for men. Then there's only women's bantamweight for women.
Okay.
And then there's now, and that's partly because how many women are you going to see that fight at a high level for you to say you want to organize a tournament for all of them to compete? You know, it's unreasonable at this stage of the sport anyway. Maybe in another 5 years.
Full Spirit doesn't enjoy
women's fights. Yeah. I don't care anymore. Like, for me, fighting is fighting, and a good woman fighter will excite me as much as a good male. Like Rose Namajunas, when she was at the top of her game, even
she was in a top flow.
To Valentina Shevchenko, thank you. There's nothing. If you see Valentina Shevchenko moving, or you see Amanda Nunes' power or Cyborg's power, trust me, you're not thinking
those one are career martial artists. Like, they dedicated their life. Shevchenko is like, she's a martial artist.
Full package.
Yes.
So are you going to tell me all of a sudden because she's a woman, I should appreciate John Jones's? No. Like, a good fighter is a good fighter.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. Yeah. But I understand people that can't watch women fighting, because seeing women bleed, especially like me now, I've covered more shows than I can count mentally, locally, with AKO, doing stuff around, going for Dembe. I've done so much that violence, I'm really desensitized to violence now.
You've seen the worst of it.
Yeah, it doesn't really bother me. I can see somebody's bone snap, and I'm right there with you, talking about it, breaking down. Oh, the bone is popping out of the skin. But it's my job. It's my job. Same way your job is to come here and bring out a conversation out of me. It's my job. So I must commentate on it, because it's a disservice to the fighter. The guy that broke the hand, there were things he did that made it possible for him to break that hand.
Yes.
So all of a sudden now, my horror should rob him of that moment, because he's fighting. They're not fighting so that they can go home and be married to each other. They are fighting so that one person can be clearly defined as the victor. I am stronger than you. I'm faster than you. I outsmarted you. I'm better than you. I outgrappled you. That's what they want. So for me now, as the commentator, I need to give the guy his props, his justice. It's like, guy, you made the sacrifice to be here, and you overcame your fears. You fought this guy. Let me describe what you are doing, and let me give you the so that the people at home too can respect what you are doing.
I'm talking about fear. Well, I've said it severally, but I would want you, for people watching at home and the casuals, and I know that a lot of people watching, I would want you to give your own word of encouragement. Tell them, like, people like you started from virtually no
nothing.
History of martial arts to where you are.
Yeah.
Give our casuals and our viewers your word of encouragement.
Okay. Fear is the greatest indicator to where your destiny lies. Fear is an emotion that you can get comfortable with.
Yeah.
Fear exists because there's something that should have been done that wasn't done. or something that was done and it wasn't done to the highest standard that we could have done it. And because there's uncertainty there, you have fear.
Yeah.
Fear is your inability to confront your demons. So fear is many things.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to say about fear is that fear is not negative. Fear is just Google Maps for your conscience. It's just like, okay, if you want to get to the place that you would be greatest in this endeavor that we're looking at now, turn left, take right, overcome some adversity, go and have a conversation that makes you uncomfortable, learn to network, train your body, do whatever you are afraid of.
Yeah.
Because you only have this life for a very short period of time. It's not being 80 or to 100 is not guaranteed, and it's a very short period of time. And there's a period that you genuinely wake up to that understanding that, I'm going to die one day. And I think what the effect that had on me was that I started being more grateful for every moment that I had. And I discovered that the thing that robbed me of my joy most in life was fear. So I started confronting it. If I don't know how to talk to people, I'll start talking to people randomly just to desensitize myself. If I need to learn a new skill, I'm going to read a book. There was time I didn't even think I could read books. I'm just like, people that read books, they have time, they have money, Now I'm reading books, I'm training every day, I'm trying. And it's all because I changed the way I look at fear.
Yeah.
And another thing is being a Christian and believing in something bigger than myself is really important. Like, because just what gave me the courage to confront fear is God. So I just have to be honest with you. So fear is your good friend. Fear is a director. Fear will point you in the right direction. And when it's hard to overcome it, I lean on God, and that's my.
And before we go, I was going to ask you. You seem to be always well dressed. And you seem to be always wearing some of the most fanciful suits that I see, both on show and even here. What are your other interests? Do you make suits or what?
Okay, so I like how do you describe that? I like intentionality. I like people. I like seeing that. Like, you see how that camera is perfectly in between that TV and this stand.
Yeah.
For me, that is something that I can look at for a long period of time, and it will be inspiring thoughts in my head that if I tell you, it will seem strange. So I think that anything worth doing is worth doing well.
Yeah.
If you're trying to pursue a career in something, you should the least you can do is dress the part. And if you are not even qualified for the part, at least make a point to try and sound the part.
Yeah.
So fortunately or unfortunately, I'm an introvert, but being an introvert now, I cannot come and say because I'm an introvert, the world has to bend to how I am. I had to learn how to socialize with people. And I discovered that a key way to get people to trust you, to think that you are consistent in your actions, give you the benefit of the doubt, integrity, is if they see that you're willing to clean up,
dress well,
wear a decent suit, dress well, dress your bed, your house is clean, there's no dust on the table. These things sound very stupid, but the truth is that you are judging people all the time, and you are projecting that same thing on other people. You're dressing a certain way because you want people to look. You are dyeing your hair, certain hairstyles. Who are you to say that you cannot do that for your place of work? I'm an entertainer, quote unquote, but what I am is an analyst.
Yeah.
And a big part of getting the audience to trust that I know what I'm about to talk about on the microphone is that I should look like I'm ready for the job.
Yeah.
So I'm coming to a podcast run by young gentlemen like myself, sharp. Their minds are hot. They want to do something that has never been done before. That excites me. That's all what I'm always trying to do. How can we push the envelope? What can we do next?
Yeah.
Of course, I'll dress like I'm coming for the best.
It's not like you have a suit clothing line or something.
Nah, I'm talking to Joe Rogan right now. I need to dress the part.
Okay.
But the thing is, I can't give you all these props without talking about my stylist, G Nation Official on Instagram. I call him stylist though, because I believe there's a difference between a tailor and a stylist.
Yeah.
A stylist is trying to think for you so that you're not thinking about certain things.
Yeah.
He made everything I'm wearing now, the shirt inside, the blazer on top, everything.
So shout out to G Nation.
Shout out to G Nation.
Yeah. And if we say we should keep talking, we'll talk for forever.
If you guys can top up my glass, I'll talk for you.
Beyond the show, we keep rolling. And guys, you see how we're going. We're going up. We're traveling up. We're going up, and we're growing. Grow with us. For the fans and the casuals that are watching us, we appreciate you. We appreciate your likes. We appreciate your comments. And once again, we thank you for Young Jollof.
Thank you. Please, Young Jollof, Combat Culture Africa, the Nigerian Nerd, all of that is on Instagram. If you want to just
check
know
him
what, check out, pick out my thoughts. I'm always thinking. You can tell I talk a lot because I'm always thinking. So if you want to know what I'm thinking about this sport, about MMA, about combat sports in Africa and West Africa, check out those 3 and you have it for free.
Yes, and we all grow together. Thank you guys, and thank you, Oche, for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Catch you at the next show.